I created my first clay model of the Capitol in like the third grade. So that's kind of where I really, really got started. But the reality is, um, I always played with Legos, Lincoln Logs, never was too excited about the dolls. I wanted to build things.
All right, what is up, everybody? We are back for another episode of the Outreach Podcast, and got a very, very, very special guest, Dr. Irish Horsey. Irish, thank you for joining us today. How you doing?
I'm doing great. And thank you for having me, Paul.
Oh,
Excited
yes,
to be
yes,
here.
yes. Man, for sure, for sure. Yeah, I have been waiting a long time for this. We've gotten a chance over the course of a few years to be able to, work together, do some things. But I want to talk through, the work that you get a chance to do. You've got a very, very immaculate career, and just what you've been able to accomplish thus far. I think it's worth telling. It's worth sharing. So, talk to me a little bit because we always start because everybody has a story and everybody has a journey to where they got to where they are. I think a lot of times when we're doing whether it's interviews, podcasts, or what have you, you see people on social media or what have you, like when you meet them at that point, they didn't arrive there, right? Like there's a whole backstory to how people got to where they are. And so talk to us a little bit just about your journey and how you got to where you are today.
Okay, great. Well, currently I'm the Director of Industry Advancement at Procore, and I'll talk a little bit about what that is and what I'm doing in my current role. But I'll start from the very beginning. I don't know how far you want to go back, but we'll
Let's
we'll we'll
go. Take
start
us
at the
back.
beginning. So, I have always been passionate about the built environment. It started as a passion for me in the third grade. I knew when I was 8 years old that I was fascinated with building. Excuse me, I was given a project um, from our third grade teacher, and I'm from Atlanta, and we were instructed to pick a building downtown Atlanta and create it. And we could use any form of media that we wanted to use and medium that we wanted to use. And the building I selected was the Capitol. And if anyone's been to Atlanta, the Capitol looks very much like a government Capitol building, very complex, very ornate. And as a third grader, that was a pretty big feat.
Yeah.
The majority of my classmates picked what was then the Peachtree Plaza, which was like this cylindrical shaped building that if you got like a paper towel roll, you could just kind of make that and that could be the building. But not me. I created my first clay model of the Capitol in like the third grade. So that's kind of where I really, really got started. But the reality is, um, I always played with Legos, Lincoln Logs, never was too excited about the dolls. I wanted to build things.
Yeah.
And by the time I was in the seventh grade, I had the opportunity to be what we call back then patrols. And we took a patrol trip to DC, where we were touring the capital city. And the first time I flew into Washington, D.C., we flew over the Pentagon,
Mm.
and I was taken away. I was blown away completely by how a building could be in a geometrical shape and who
Yeah.
designed it and who thought of this idea. How did this happen? And from then on, I was always interested in building, even through high school. Um, all of my friends were taking home economics. They were cooking
Yeah.
and sewing. I still don't like cooking and sewing too much. There's nothing wrong with it if that's what you like to do, but I wanted to take drafting. And so I took drafting and I thought I was going to go into architecture.
Mm.
And it was interesting at the time because most people told me I should be a teacher. And I love educators, but I was
Yeah.
slightly offended because I'm like, but I like buildings. Why do you want me to be a teacher?
Any reason why they told you? Like why they were recommending that you be a teacher?
Then I didn't know. Back then I didn't know why, but
Yeah.
now I do. I always tutored. I was always somebody who helped people. I enjoyed like um, students that were challenged with reading, and so I kind of had that, I guess, that teacher vibe.
Yeah.
But
Yep.
I
Yep.
was passionate about buildings, and so I followed my passion, and I had supporting parents, and I went to the illustrious Tuskegee University, where I majored in initially architecture and
Yep.
transitioned into construction science and management. And starting out in architecture was great. But my first year as a freshman, the summer, I got an internship with an architectural firm here in Atlanta. I think I mentioned I'm from Atlanta. And they put me in the construction management department, which I had no idea what that was. But by the end of the summer, I knew and I thought it was amazing. And I thought, when I go back to school, I'm going to dual major in architecture and construction management. And that's exactly what I did. And thus, the beginning of my construction management career, or
Yep.
studies at least. And I ultimately graduated with a Bachelor of Science in Construction Management and a minor in architecture, and went into the field as a construction manager, starting off, of course, at an entry level as a project engineer, and working my way up, and worked in industry in various professional services companies, are global leaders in construction management and architecture and engineering, and eventually transitioned to a local government, and became a construction manager with them. And I started feeling a calling to teach for some reason. So people in my high school were not wrong. And, yeah, yeah, and so I decided that the traveling, and as much as I love buildings, were amazing, but I felt like I could give more to the built environment in the classroom. So at the time, I had a master's degree, I had an MBA, and I had my bachelor's. And I thought, in order to teach and transition into that career, I would need to earn my doctorate. But little did I know, with my experience and with my credentials at the time, I could teach at a technical college level. So I took on the position as a construction management head at a technical college here in Atlanta, and ultimately started pursuing my PhD in building construction, and then transitioned to a four-year college and university, where I did complete my degree in PhD in building construction from Georgia Tech, and
Now,
became
wasn't
an
that I'm gonna stop you right there because didn't that degree have some significance?
It did. First of all, it's highly specialized. Not a lot of
Yeah.
people go to school and get a PhD in building construction. And definitely not a lot of people who look like me have that degree. And I graduated from Georgia Tech as the first African American woman to earn a PhD in building construction from that
Say that
program.
one more time. Say that one more time. I gotta
I'm the
lean in
first,
for this one.
I'm the first African American female to graduate with a PhD in building construction from Georgia Tech.
Oh my gosh.
Yes.
Yes, yes, yes. That is amazing. This is a historic, right, interview that we're having because being the first African American woman to earn a PhD in building construction from Georgia Tech University. I mean, that's amazing. That's amazing, Iris. So how did you? And I know when you're purpose driven, when you're trying to accomplish things, sometimes we don't sit back and reflect on the significance of our accomplishments, And so, how did you feel when you were able to obtain that degree and become the first African American woman to have a PhD in building construction?
I'm so glad you asked that question, Paul. A lot of people don't ask me how I felt. They just want to know like how I got to that point. And because I'm purpose driven, as you mentioned, you would think earning a PhD, you'd be bouncing off the walls and excited, and then having that distinction of being the first. I will tell you a story, and I have to share it. When my regalia came, that I ordered for the commencement ceremony, my husband was like, "It's here, it's here." So I wanted to have like a moment.
Yeah.
So I went into my bedroom and I slowly opened the box like it was, like the best Christmas present ever. And I just wanted to preserve the moment. I pulled the regalia out, my blue and gold gown and my hat, and I put everything on, and I looked in the mirror and I burst into tears. I
Mm.
was just overwhelmed with emotion, and I just felt this weight. And my husband came in the room and excuse me, he was like, "Are you okay? Are you not happy that this is happening?" I said,
Right.
"I feel a weight that I have to help the next generation get here. Like
Mm,
so many people have fought for me to have this opportunity and to achieve this point. My grandfather, who was a carpenter, I thought about him and how it's always been in my blood to build. I thought about being in class and feeling like inferior and feeling like all the other students were so much more smarter than me. And I thought about just the heaviness of the responsibility that I now carry because I have to pull the next generation in. I have to help the next person become the next PhD or the
yeah.
next construction manager. And so I'm putting this regalia on and I am not, walking around the room prancing and excited. I am feeling a weighted responsibility. And
Mm,
fast forward to the actual commencement ceremony where I'm sitting on a row by myself. No one looks like me. The it was during COVID, so we were coming out of COVID, so it's outside in the Bobby Dodd Stadium at Georgia Tech,
yeah.
and there were other people of color earning PhDs, but not in building construction, and very few people. Like I said, it's a highly specialized degree, and so again, just feeling the pressure of now I have this responsibility to help other people, and then when I get up to walk to the podium, I hear my family screaming. I see everybody. I'm waving and I'm smiling. But all the while, I'm carrying this burden. And when I get on this platform, the dean gets ready to hood me. And he says, "Never forget this moment." He
Mm,
said, "No one can take this away from you." And he puts this hood on me. And so the burden that I was carrying, now it becomes like this I don't this moment where I have this torch that I have to bear and have
mhm.
to be this champion. And so this whole thing was an experience that I think goes beyond just earning the degree and the hard work. For me, as an African American woman in a male dominated field and a field that definitely women make up about, 11 to 14% of the industry, and always being the only female in my class and oftentimes the only person of color, like, I have to be a champion in this moment. And so you asked how I felt, and I will
Yeah.
tell you, I felt overwhelmed. And
Mm,
so I know that was a long answer, but no one
that's
ever
good.
really asked me how I felt in that moment. Being the first is both rewarding and it's also overwhelming.
Yeah, yeah. I think, and I'm glad you were able to lean into that and just kind of unpack how you were feeling because I think that's super important, especially when you're the first. A lot of times people don't realize like those trailblazers and those who accomplish something for the first time have to go through because if you have never had somebody that came before you doing exactly what you're doing in the context that you're doing it in and where you're doing it, like that, it makes you the first, and you have to carry a lot of things with not people to relate to in the moment. You definitely have people to support you, especially if you got a good support system, but sometimes that can be a very lonely road, and I don't think a lot of people understand that.
Oh,
And
yeah.
I think it's important to kind of lean into that because just because you're the first to do something or just because you're the only one doing something doesn't mean you don't have the capacity, doesn't mean you don't have the competency, doesn't mean, you're not going to accomplish it. Especially, when we think about where we are today as a society and a lot of the finished product that people get a chance to see that meets the eye, whether it's social media or what have you, or the stage or what have you. A lot of people don't understand that journey and the backstory to what it took to get there. And it's a process to that, and so you don't just arrive. And I think being able to lean into the feelings, the emotions, the weight that you feel, things that you have to maybe work against. Because a lot of times when you want to, especially when you're purposeful and you are looking to accomplish something that's greater than yourself, a lot of times you're going to be your own worst critic as well. So you've got to deal
Absolutely.
with external things because people go say what they gonna say, but then you also have to deal with those internal voices, and you trying to give yourself grace, and not be overcritical of yourself and celebrate yourself and be patient with yourself. And so that's a lot, that I wanted to lean into and talk through because I think that message is really important, especially today.
Yeah, absolutely. And I by no means want to make it sound that I just started and arrived here because it
Yeah,
did
yeah,
not go that way. And earning the PhD during that time, I was working full time. I'm a wife. I have
yeah,
3 children,
yeah,
and my program was in residence, so it wasn't like I had online classes. So I literally would have to work around my work schedule, drive into downtown Atlanta, go to class. And fortunately, the program that I was leading, we had evening courses, so I could go take my classes in the daytime, be back at work to teach in the evening. Not to mention, I earned my PhD in 2021. We're talking about just 4 years ago. So I
yeah,
was an older student. I had not been in school for a while. The younger students around me didn't have the familial responsibilities that I had. They,
yeah,
were uh, a typical traditional graduate student. It was just them. They were there to focus. And I already had a career that was
yeah,
going
yeah.
very well. Before were nights when my project team wanted to meet and they wanted to stay like in the computer lab to 12 and 1 o'clock. And I'm like, I have a family. I need to
Right.
get home. And then
Yeah.
there were things that I had to learn from a technological standpoint, because the industry was evolving and technology was advancing, um, that I had kind of a learning curve and I had to catch up. And I would be in tears driving home. And I literally screamed one night and I was like, I have a great job. I have a great career. My family, like, I don't have to do this.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But even with the obstacles, I kept going. I'm purpose driven. I have a vision. I'm a firm believer that I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. And so
Yeah,
I leaned
yeah,
in on that. I leaned in on my faith, and I kept going even through the obstacles. And that's how that's how I got to be Dr. Horsey. It wasn't easy though, not by any
yeah.
means.
But God, yeah.
Absolutely, but God.
Yes. Oh my gosh. No, that is great. So when you think about kind of where you are today, like you've been able to really lean into bridging, I would say, education, technology, and something that we haven't talked about now, but is also workforce development, right? Like being able to bridge those three things. Talk to us a little bit about how you've been able to do that.
Yeah. So that brings us to where I am currently. As I mentioned earlier, I'm the Director of Industry Advancement at Procore. And I've been working at Procore for about 3 years, leaving academia, recognizing that although I loved being an academic, I was an interim department chair before I left. Our program was excelling. I had started a women in construction program at our university. Um, Always passionate about the next generation of construction professionals, which is why I wanted to teach. I wanted to help prepare that future generation. But I felt like the four walls of academia were limiting me to to what I could really do and bring to the industry. And so my research has been in basically creating a more diverse, inclusive construction workforce. Even my dissertation was on helping minority-owned construction firms become prime contractors, helping them grow and develop and become independent. So I've always been passionate about the workforce and in particular creating a workforce that looks like the world around us. And so in my role at Procore, I lead a team of program managers who are responsible for various programs that support the construction community. Procore, for those who may not know, is the leading construction project management software globally, where we focus solely on construction. We have an amazing product that helps us build more, or helps the construction community build more effectively and more efficiently. But in addition to that, we also have a commitment to serving the construction community, which is where my team comes in. And so, one of the biggest challenges that the industry is facing right now is, of course, the labor shortage and the skills gap. And Procore, wanting to meet the industry where it is, wanting to help lead with the industry, our mission at Procore is to improve the lives of everyone in construction. And we want to do that through the platform, of course, but also through our community outreach. And so through the programs that my team manages, we partner with the colleges and universities, where we donate the product free, in kind, free of charge to colleges and universities that have construction degree programs or construction related programs. And this is because we want students who are entering the construction industry to be ready to hit the ground running with the latest in technology. We also have our future workforce program, where we recognize that not only do college students who already know they want to enter the construction field meet the resources to enter construction from a technological standpoint, but we have a responsibility to educate even younger people about the possibilities of even considering construction as a career.
Yeah.
I know you are aware, Paul, that the construction industry is in dire need of people. We are in a crisis where we need almost a 500,000 people, like right now, to fill the demand of the construction workforce. We also recognize that by 2036, so in almost 10 years, just over 10 years, 53% of the construction workforce is going to retire. So the time is now, actually the time was yesterday, that we
Yeah.
should have
Right.
been addressing this issue. And so being passionate about leading with industry and helping solve its biggest challenges, Procore has these programs where we are partnering with industry, with organizations like Construct Reach, to help the future generation of construction professionals, even develop interest in construction, but then also knowing the pathways that they can take. And so I mentioned a couple of programs. I mentioned our college and university program. I also mentioned our K-12 program, our future workforce program, where we're targeting elementary school students, middle school students, and exposing them to what they can do in construction. In addition to partnering with organizations like yours, we partner with the ACE Mentor program. We're doing work with the Boys and Girls Club. So we are really committed to helping prepare and create that future generation of construction.
Yeah, no, that is good. And yeah, I would say like Procore's commitment to workforce development, is definitely felt by us at Construct Reach with the work that we get a chance to do together. What is that messaging like to that younger demographic, and how technology and education kind of intersect with the industry of construction?
Construction has a perception problem, I think.
Hmm.
And that perception problem comes from that you're going to be wearing muddy boots, and you're going to be wearing a hard hat, and you're going to be in the field doing intensive labor. Yes, those are opportunities within construction for those that want to do that, but there are also so many other opportunities that you can explore. And those opportunities could be management, which is the path that I took, construction management. There's construction engineering. There's also roles that are related to construction management that are specialized in just one aspect. Like you could be a scheduler, you could be an inspector. If you like numbers and you like accounting, you may want to have an interest in estimating. The beauty about a degree in construction, or even pursuing a credential in construction at all, is that that credential opens up so many doors and so many opportunities. So
Yep.
you mentioned technology. Um, One of the things that I think will help our industry recruit and retain young people is this technological era that we are in, this digital transformation that is literally unfolding before our eyes right now. This generation is, they're born into technology. And
Yeah.
so when they can see that we're using drones to inspect job sites, that we can walk through buildings with um, um, meta glasses and 3D goggles, wear exoskeleton devices that allow women who may have been physically challenged with some of the weights that are required in construction to be able to lift things from with the support of mechanical device. We have robot dogs that roam the job site. We have so many cool things that we are doing with technology in the industry right now that I think attracting this young generation using that tool might help us to combat the labor shortage that we're facing.
Yeah, no, I'm glad you leaned into that because even when we do the I built this events together and we are showing the wide array of different career pathways that a young person can take, we're always including the technological component, but speaking to that as well, because right, this generation, they grew up in technology, right? So, we know a world where it wasn't all of this. So, we've been able to adapt, but this younger generation now that's making up tomorrow's workforce, this is all they know. So being able to change that perception, and I'm glad that you said that because I think the industry has a perception issue. And so it's being able to understand it. And then how do we mitigate that? How do we change the narrative? How do we introduce them to technology and how it really is permeated throughout all of the industry? And so, just as much as they see technological advancements that are taking place within society, all of those things are actually taking place as well within the construction sector. And so, being able to make those connections, I think, is huge for young people. And so, no, I'm glad that you got a chance to mention that and speak to that because I think it's definitely something that's needed. And then being able to introduce these career pathways during very formative years. And so I like the fact that your team is engaging with kids pretty much all through their educational journey because it's important for them as they are understanding what careers are out there and what professions they can go into, being able to introduce construction at an early age and then for them to understand how different career pathways can kind of dovetail off of one another or being able to see their gifts through the lens of the industry, I think is very important as they're growing and honing their skills and their gifting or coming into an awareness of what their skills and what their gifting is, and so I think
Absolutely.
that's super cool.
Absolutely.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. You mentioned the need to attract the younger demographic. You've talked about your educational journey, and although you've been able to accomplish a lot, you said, and I want to go back to when you were graduating and you felt this weight. So when you think about kind of the state of where things are right now within our industry, what do we need to be doing more of?
I think we need to be doing more of exactly what Construct Reach is doing, reaching out to our young people, volunteering, exposing them to opportunities within the industry, and meeting them where they are. Young people are on their devices 24/7. We need to be posting videos on TikTok about how cool it is to be in construction. We need to be very bullish on showing all of the different people groups that work in the construction industry. Though I mentioned that the industry is predominantly male dominated, it's also predominantly white male dominated.
Yes.
And there are opportunities for everyone in this industry. And I think showing the world around us that these opportunities exist, we also need to show that diversity in our advertisements, in our social media. We need to show different people doing different things in the industry so that if you can see it, you can be it. We talked about me and my journey in earning the PhD, but there wasn't like a me for me to look up to. I was the
Yeah.
first one. But what I didn't recognize was who was watching me. And so there was a professor who was teaching at Georgia Tech, who was an adjunct professor. She has her own construction company. She's an African American lady. Um, she transitioned from not just being a professor, but actually entering into the doctoral program. She told me that I inspired her, and now she wants to earn a PhD in building
Oh,
construction. When I go and speak to, people, we travel in various circles at conferences and things like that. Other women and people of color want to advance in construction, and some of them feel like they want to teach and go into academia. And they ask me how you do that. There wasn't a me before me. So there always has to
yeah.
be somebody who has to be the first. And I think when you see someone that is doing something that may be of interest to you, you could relate to it and you can feel like you can do it too. And I think showing that um, to the world, showing that diversity in the industry is and doing that more is what we need to do. I volunteered for a organization called I Am Beautiful, which is an organization that's geared toward young women and helping them to appreciate who they are, achieve their goals, raise their self-esteem, encourage them to be all and everything that they want to be. And so I was on a panel with a esteemed group of professional women. One was an aerospace engineer, another was a computer scientist. I was representing the construction industry as a construction manager, and there was a fourth woman, and I can't remember her role. However, all of the women, including myself, we talked about what we did. And at the end, a little girl came up to me, and she was probably about 6 years old. And she said, I think I'd like to do what you're doing
Mm,
at 6 years old. And I think if we can continue to reach out to that group, expose this young generation to the opportunities,
yeah.
then we don't know what the possibilities are endless. And I think that's when we'll start to see a shift in construction reflecting the world that we're building.
Yeah. When you were talking about the panel that you were sitting on, you know, the visual that I had in my mind
Mhm.
was Hidden Figures. You know what I'm saying? Like for real, when you think about just your accomplishments and then the other women that you were sitting on the panel with and what they've been able to accomplish as well, like that is the image that came into my head.
Mhm.
Is
Mhm.
Hidden Figures, you know, and, and
Yeah.
and I'm glad that you are on those platforms and speaking because yeah, I definitely think your story, your journey, the work that you've been able to do and the heart that you have
Mhm.
for being an example and showing other young girls, other young black girls, like what they can do and what they can be when they
Mhm.
may not have a tangible example. And I think
Mhm.
that matters too. Like there's a and this is why I definitely, love the work that we get a chance to do
Absolutely.
because you see, especially in a virtual environment, I think being able to still have that human interaction, have those tangible
Mhm.
points to where your life can really be tangible for somebody else, and what you've been able to accomplish can be within arm's reach. I think that's super inspirational as well. Just being able to have a young girl, a young person, or one of the professors that you mentioned that's going on to pursue her PhD, just being able to have that close connection, and whether it's doing life with you or just seeing you up close and in person, I think that is super inspirational, especially in a digital environment.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think you said it right, Paul. I do. I have a heart for people. I'm just meant to encourage and help support. That is just how I'm wired.
Yeah,
And my lane just happens to be in the construction industry. And so I think that everybody could be in construction because I'm just
yeah,
so passionate about it. I believe it's something for everyone. And I am going to continue to work as hard as I can to make sure that we live that out. that we help to open up this industry to anyone who wants to be in it.
Yeah, no, that is amazing. And yes, because you are definitely still working. Because as I understand, there is a work in the progress too. So, I think there is, I don't know, somebody mentioned this, let me know if I'm right, but there is a book in the works.
There is. Yes, I am super excited to be able to tell you today that I am the author of the forthcoming book, You Can Be Here, A Woman's Guide to Construction Careers. So, not only do I, talk about this in various platforms, social media, when I go to these conferences at colleges and universities, women are always saying, well, how did you do it? How do you get into this career? How do you advance in your career? I have this issue at work. Oh, can you be my mentor?
Yeah.
What advice can you give me? And I said, I would love to be able to help everyone, but I cannot physically do that. So what can I do that I could possibly be a mentor to all the people who want one, who need some support? And I was like, maybe I'll write a book about it. And
Yeah.
so that's what I've done. And the book not only includes my journey, it includes anyone's journey. So whether you are someone who's just curious about construction, if you are a high school student, if you are a college student in a 2-year program or in a 4-year program, if you're an entrepreneur and you have zero construction experience, but you want to start a construction company, I have all the different entry points that you can enter construction, the credentials that you need, the skills that you're going to need. Uh, um, I include a career pathway, a career mapping tool to help you outline what your construction career could look
Wow.
like. I also include organizations that you should belong to, even at your current state, people that you should be connecting with, um, uh, um, academic programs or training programs that you should be affiliating yourself with, depending on where you currently are. And the book even helps you discern even if construction is a career for you at the very
Yeah.
beginning.
Yeah.
And it has tools and resources that, even though we are in the age of AI, this information is not centralized. So it has tools and resources that you just cannot get in one place off of the internet. And also, what you're not going to get is my personal story, but what it's truly like to be a woman in the industry. When we're sitting in classrooms and training sessions, when we're learning about construction, we are learning about the technical and the physical part of building.
Yeah.
But as a woman in the industry, even though we like to say that the industry is for everyone and that, everything is equal, it really is not. If you are a woman in the industry, it is different for you. And what that looks like, I try to do a really good job of explaining it from my personal experience and from the lens of 10 other women who are phenomenal who are working in the industry at various points and what their challenges are. And so wanting to be able to answer questions that you just don't get to ask in a training or a classroom setting, like what's it like being pregnant on a job site?
Yeah.
Or
Yep.
what if I want to start a family and I'm in this construction career and things like
Yep.
can I have my hair? Like, what can my hair look like in a hard hat? Like those kinds of things that you just, just as a woman, you just don't get in a classroom. I cover that in the book as well. So I'm excited about it. Like I said, I am meant to help people. I have a passion for people, and I've written this book for that very reason.
Wow. Oh, that is good. I can't wait. Would you do me a favor? Would you come back when the book releases?
I will absolutely do that. The book is going to be out this spring by March 1st. And anyone who's interested in the book can absolutely visit my website at irishhorsey.com and can get on the list to pre-order now. But I'm super excited. And again, this just weaves into the work that I get to do professionally on a daily basis. At Procore, I get to go out into the community. I get to talk about how wonderful this industry is. And in my personal advocacy, I get to promote it up amongst the people that are like me, amongst women. So I'm excited to be able to do this.
Wow. Wow. Oh my gosh, I cannot believe we are out of time already. Dr. Irish Horsey, it has been a pleasure dropping gems. It's always great to connect with you. Super inspirational story, and the work is continuing to go forth. And so I thank you so much for being with us. And yeah, until next time.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate you.